Another thing that I learned from my pastor is to be submissive and loyal. Now, this is a ministry principle that is especially relevant and very important for those of you who are assistants. Maybe you're an assistant pastor, an assistant in the ministry, you run some aspect of the ministry that you have responsibility for, but you report to someone else. There's someone over you, a senior pastor or a ministry leader. This is for you, especially for you. The men that God had raised up to help Moses and that helped him the best, they helped them best when they stood by his side and held his hands up. We read about that in Exodus chapter 17, verse 12. These are the guys that were so supportive of Moses and helpful. Every good leader needs people around them to help hold their arms up. That's what we're going to be looking at. I'm going to read some scriptures to you, and it's Titus chapter 3, verse 1 and 2. It says, "Remind the people to be subject to the rulers and authorities, to be obedient, to be ready to do whatever is good." Verse 2 it says, "To slander no one, to be peaceable and considerate, and always to be gentle towards everyone." I also want to take in the same chapter, Titus chapter 3, and look at verse 10 and 11. In verse 10, it tells us this: "Warn a divisive person once, and then warn them a second time. After that, have nothing to do with them. You may be sure that such people are warped and sinful. They are self-condemned." Well, those scriptures have some really powerful words, and they were words that would be spoken to someone who is in the ministry, who is under some sort of leadership. We have a responsibility towards those God has placed over us, and it's a very strong responsibility. It's my calling, if I'm an assistant, if I'm under someone, it's my duty to be loyal to my pastor, to assist them. That's why I'm called maybe an assistant pastor. I'm to ease their burden. I'm to make their job and their work lighter. I'm to hold up their arms, as we said, as those that were holding up Moses' arms. I'm to help them in any way that needs doing. My pastor is the shepherd that God has entrusted to the ministry. And I need to remember that. It's his ministry. It's the one that God has given him the vision for, and I'm there to assist in that calling and in overseeing the aspect of the ministry that God has given me to do. My job is to pray for my pastor, my leader, daily. They need my prayers. They need that because they have a lot of things that I don't see. There's a lot going on in the spiritual realm. They may be under attack that I don't even know about, and I'm there to be a support to them. I'm not to be there to cause their work to be harder in any way. My job is to encourage them if I can. When they see me, it brings a smile to their face. They know that I'm doing what I can and I'm being loyal to them. I'm being submissive. I'm to give my pastor a lot of data and feedback and information. And this is so critical and so important. Withholding information does not help them. Now, maybe some leaders don't need a constant barrage of information, but most do. They need to know what's going on, how's it going. They need the updates. They need the feedback and honest feedback. They don't need just yes men that tell them yes sir to whatever they say. But in the same token, they don't need somebody who is building their own kingdom or doing their own ministry under their back or doing things and they're not aware of it. So they get blindsided at times. Tell them what's going on. Let them know. Don't let anything come as a surprise to them. It's really hard. Myself, having been in leadership position and being the senior pastor, it's really hard when you find out that somebody has information they've withheld that you feel blindsided. Sometimes you even feel betrayed. Don't do that. Let them know what's going on. Even if it's information that sometimes you may think they may not be particularly happy about. God has placed someone over you. Recognize that this is the kingdom of God. Ministry operates under biblical principles. Your role is to submit, to love that person, and to help them. Always be loyal to your pastor. Don't betray those you minister with. That means don't backbite them. Don't speak about them negatively in public. Don't criticize them before others. If you've got an issue, follow the biblical mandate. Go to him one-on-one in a very respectful way, in a loving way. You can confront and bring out some things that maybe you're not comfortable with or how you see things in a different way. But don't go in public and criticize. That's going to bring division, and God is not pleased with that. If there's something in the ministry that you simply can't live with, maybe there's a way that they're doing ministry, there's just a approach that you're not comfortable with, and well, then I would say you've talked to your pastor, you've not been able to work it out, just leave quietly. Let them know that you're leaving, but don't make a big public scene out of it. Don't hurt the ministry. Don't hurt the kingdom of God. Don't bring shame to Christ's body by being someone who's out there vocal and criticizing the pastor. No, just leave quietly. And again, we're not talking about things where there's sin or something that is being done unbiblical. We're talking about just differences in opinion, different approaches to doing ministry. If your pastor is doing things in a way you dislike, hey, God's going to deal with them. You know what? If he's doing things in a way that is displeasing to God, don't worry about it. God cares about his church, and he will deal with that pastor. Your role is to continue to be loyal and submissive so long as the ministry is biblical and there's not sin involved. Never cause strife or division. Don't be that person who comes into a ministry and splits the ministry. You're there to help your pastor. You're there to encourage your pastor. You're there to submit to your pastor. You're there to lighten his load and make the work move forward. Don't try to be the star. God hasn't called you to be the star. God's called you to be a support, and be a great support. Serve God by serving the man that God has placed over you. Remember, it's their ministry, your pastor's ministry. Of course, it's all for Christ, but it's not yours. God hasn't given you the responsibility for it. So, in your area of responsibility, guide it as the senior pastor would, or as the ministry leader would. Run things exactly as they would have them to run. Ensure that they're never going to have to worry about your aspect of the ministry, that you're doing it so well and in such a way that they don't even have to worry about it. They just know everything is going well in that department or in that area. Put sincere effort into your service. You won't have a problem with your senior pastor if you are submissive and if you're loyal and if you put these principles into practice. In fact, it'll be a joy and a blessing, your service there in that ministry. Always be submissive and loyal.